Um, yeah. Okay, I want to welcome everybody to our June 17th meeting. I think everybody is familiar with. I'm going to have Don introduce yourself because I know that Doug has not met you before. So
I'm Don Hardy, I'm planning director.
and is Tim on?
Tim, can you hear us, Tim?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great.
So Tim Wood is a little background from him.
So he's with FCS Group, they're helping us lead us through the system development charge updates. Parks obviously is one of those. They're specialists in this, they've done this for many other cities across the state. And we're happy to have their guidance. This is super complicated stuff. And it also is really important in context that we get this right. There are groups that do challenge these, and our attorneys at the city, our contracted attorneys are defending a city right now that's going through this. So that'll be part of what Tim covers tonight is the defensibility of this. So we're hopefully solid and not like suspect. And both conservancy groups and construction people in the construction industry both watch this very closely. Conservancy groups from the sense of increased housing costs. And the same for construction folks, and they don't generally like system development charges. I'm generalizing a bit, but those are usually the ones that appeal these. So it gets more likely to be appealed the closer we go to the maximum defensible rate, which is, as we'll talk about tonight, is a spectrum here, but I'm not suggesting exactly a path forward, but just an acknowledgement that the higher the rate is, the more likely we're gonna have more eyes on this. So that's with that. So Tim that's a bit kind of context, Tim. Not to steal your thunder, but
Before we move on to this, just kind of staying with the agenda. I would like to, we need to approve our May 2025 meeting minutes, which we didn't have. So all in favor of those no minutes? No. Yeah, okay. So we didn't, it kind of slipped through the cracks,
Right.
And then we've been going through some things. So there weren't any May 2025 meeting minutes, so.
Yet,
With
but
that-
there will be.
But there will be, because
And we'll
Kara has
catch
the
up on.
notes.
That's
She's
right.
got the notes.
Catch up on.
So with that being said, now we're moving on to Don.
so we're gonna turn it over to Tim. He's gonna walk us through some slides, and this is a bit of a recast in terms of like a repeat rather of what we've gone over before. This is still moving forward into the methodology piece of this, and so Tim, go ahead, take it away.
Great, thanks, Don. And yeah, we'll be reviewing some of the things that we've talked about before. Another thing that that I want to get to in this meeting, which I think Don is sort of alluding to here, is a review of the project list that we've been working with since you all put it together, I think maybe a couple months back. So what Don's referring to there, in terms of the challenge of developers and the like, we can get into trouble with appeal of an SDC if we don't do everything correctly. And one of those things is just kind of making sure that the project list passes muster, kind of in particular as it relates to double counting. So basically making sure that there's no overlap between one project and another. So we'll go through that, and then prioritization of the project list. Those are kind of the big items for today. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you can see that.
Yep.
Okay, great. So brief agenda today. I won't take up as much of your time as I have in the last couple of months. But want to just bring the SDC scenarios back for your review. Shouldn't be too groundbreaking after what we've discussed already. Same with the level of service discussion. Just want to kind of bring you up to speed on the latest and greatest calculations there. Project list prioritization. So with these processes, one of the requirements is to sort of designate these these projects as either, you know, within a time frame or prioritize them from a low, medium, and high perspective. So we'll take a look at the projects that we put together for the list already, and we'll prioritize those and hopefully get some of your input on what you envision as some of these projects, because as an outsider, I'm not always sure what these are, and I want to make sure that my understanding is as good as your guys's. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So quick scenario update for you guys. So this will look pretty familiar, I think. This is our condensed project list by category and by cost. So you can see the vast majority of that project list is in the aquatic and rec center category. We all know that. We already went over that before, but you can kind of see where the breakdown happens. We brought this to council so that they're kind of getting up to speed on this project as well. And if you'll remember, we discussed in the last meeting sort of a 3 scenario approach. One where we take on the whole enchilada here, and that's about $180 million worth of project. All projects in the list, apart from those that are outside of the urban growth boundary, and that reduces the project list by, let's say, about 14 million. And then all of the projects, including those outside the urban growth boundary, but without the aquatic rec and athletic complex components. So big drop there. You can see close to $100 million. Well, I guess $100 million off the top, the grand total. And then same scenario, only with those outside of urban growth boundary projects removed. So we bring the total capital need down to 57.4 million there. And these are, again, you know, we've kind of gone over this, but these are really preliminary estimates of what these SDCs would be in each of these scenarios. So you've got a range of just about 11,000 all the way on up to about 23,400. And your current SDC per single, and these are all single family detached SDCs. Your current SDC is just under $7,000. So modest increase in these cases, scenarios 2 and 3 and 4, and a pretty substantial increase in scenarios 1 and 2. And I'll reiterate one of my favorite refrains in SDC engagements. These are maximum defensible. So council has the right to either discount these or phase them in, or a combination of both. It's completely up to their discretion. Our job in this process is to calculate the maximum defensible fee and let council do their business on the policy setting side. What we can do, of course, is formulate these scenarios. So, you know, you all have a sense of, you know, how each of these would look and what that would translate into SDCs. So, and same for council, just to give them a sense of, you know, how aggressive do we want to be for these project lists. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, because we added this 4th scenario, which is basically, again, just scenario 3, only also removing all the projects outside the urban growth boundary. So we're sort of bringing that forward too. Don't know where that'll go, but wanted to bring you up to speed on that. And a quick review of the level of service discussion, because we have been able to refine some of these understandings. So that's good. And so this is the level of service table. And so just so that everyone's operating from the same page, level of services, you know, as it relates to parks, is typically expressed in a number of units per 1,000 residents. So right now, your park system has about 5.5 units, and most of those are acres of parkland per 1,000 residents. If we take on the whole enchilada, the entire project list, we're going to bump that up to 11.4 units per 1,000 residents. So it's a big jump. And of course, with each of these different scenarios, that number goes down or up, although down from here. So what we're looking at here, and I'll walk you through this table really quickly, are 2 different ways to look at level of service. On the top of this table, these 5 lines here, it's level of service expressed by park type. So number of acres of community parks per 1,000 residents, number of acres of neighborhood parks and pocket parks per 1,000 residents, and so forth. And you can see those, your existing level of service right here in this column. So 1.6 for community, 1.6 acres of community park per 1,000 residents, 1 acre, one acre of developed linear park, 1.6 acres of natural and open space, and that totals 5.5 acres of all park units across. And this is your current inventory, by the way, by each unit, by each type of park, and your planned level of service out in 2045. So this assumes completion of the entire project list. You're adding these numbers of acres for each of these types. So for instance, in community parks, you're adding 110 acres with this project list. In natural park, open space areas, you're adding 60 acres with this project list. So big jumps in the total number, especially as you look here and compare existing 31 acres of community parks right now to 110 by 2045. Pretty big jump. Same for natural areas and open space. You're going from 30.7 acres to 60.5. So pretty substantial jumps there. And you can see that translates into a much higher level of service in both of those categories. And that translates, of course, into a much higher level of service overall for all categories. Why is this relevant? Why am I bringing this up? Because these levels of service dictate how much of these projects we can fund using SDCs, because we can't cure a deficiency. So if our existing level of service is quite low and we're looking at increasing it so substantially, we're going to be curing a deficiency on either side, or basically getting the system up to the level that we expect it to be, and not all of that can be paid for by new development, simply because we're asking new development to cure an existing deficiency in our park system. So it makes some of these categories less eligible for SDC expenditures, and you'll notice for the biggest categories, community parks and natural parks and open spaces, you're seeing the smallest eligibility percentage for those projects. So 30% and 35% of the total project costs for community parks and natural areas, respectively, are SDC eligible. And as a result, your overall eligibility rate is pretty low with that, with the all-in approach. About under 40% of the total project cost is going to be SDC eligible. So just want to bring you up to speed there, bring these kind of latest numbers in front of you. Obviously, as this process goes on, this will translate into actual numbers of eligible project costs, which will translate into your SDC. So I'll keep you updated as the process goes on. You'll certainly see this interact with the project cost with the SDCs later on in the process, but just wanted to bring this to your attention. Now I kind of want to go into the project list prioritization and true up exercise. So I'm bringing over my ugly spreadsheet of the project list here. So excuse me, and do let me know if this is legible for you all. Sometimes these tables can be too small and the text is not really legible. So do let me know if you're having a hard time reading this. So I think what I'd like to do first is sort of get the committee's sense of high, medium, and low prioritization for each of these projects. Because again, that's one of the requirements for the SDC project list, is just to give folks a sense of what the city intends to build first, what it intends to build next, and then what it intends to build if funding is available over the next 20 years. And it's pretty subjective. This process can be, there's no science behind it necessarily, but we do want to go through the exercise of prioritizing these projects. So I think what I'll do quickly is just review the project list, each of these components of the project list, and then we can have a discussion about do we want that to be low, medium, or high in terms of the prioritization? So reviewing the project list that you all put together, we've got the Molalla River Canby utility property, which is a pretty substantial, 60 acres and an estimated cost of about 16.2 million there. Purchasing the Canby School District property, which I understand is a bit up in the air. So, but still want to get a sense for how important that is to you. An open space acquisition category that doesn't really have a whole lot in the way of units or acres or cost. I think I'm comfortable skipping that because I think we have plenty of more specific projects. The bike trail extension to the Canby Ferry, which is a land acquisition to make sure that we can actually develop that trail. The Willamette Wayside Natural Area, again, really substantial purchase there, about 89 acres. Oh, sorry, not a purchase. We're adding facilities there. The former adult center, 1 acre, so pretty small, but and not a huge project cost, but it's still a really good opportunity if you can execute on it. Knightsbridge Park, pretty big, 15 acres there, land acquisition, pretty modest cost, but if I remember right, that one's outside of the urban growth boundary. So again, sort of a question as to whether or not that's your top priority. Sports complex land acquisition, estimated to be about 50 to 75 acres. I think right now we're modeling a 50-acre land acquisition for this 13.75 million estimated cost. The Emerald Necklace right-of-way acquisition, pretty substantial again, 20 acres. Honda Pitts Action Sports Park, and that's park development. I think that's our first park development project. So we're not purchasing land here. We're investing capital and actually bringing amenities to the park and activating it in that sense. Similarly, a park development project with the Auburn Farms Neighborhood Park, pretty big for neighborhood park, 2.2 1/3 acres. Ivy Ridge Estates Neighborhood Park, same deal, park development, 1.5 acres there. Walnut Street Off-Leash Dog Park, 1.5 acres there. And again, all those park development projects, so basically adding amenities to activate currently held parkland. The athletic complex and recreation center. So one of the big ticket items, we're estimating a cost of about 50 million there and an estimated size of about 62.5 acres, which is just the average of 50 and 75. Maple Street Park, we're adding facilities here, so it's not a huge project, about $900,000 in terms of project cost, so pretty modest there. Waite Park improvements, big cost, but because Waite Park is so central to the community, and if I remember correctly, the amenities that we're talking about adding here are bocce courts, splash pad, and pretty much a regrade and an excavation of the existing park. So a big project there for a relatively small park, but again, so central to the community. A couple of logging road trail improvements. One of which is land acquisition, and one of which is adding facilities to land that the city already controls. Community river park improvements, again, adding facilities there. Big area, but a smaller cost. Redwood Landing improvements, again, big area, $350,000 project cost, so not giant. River access points, adding facilities to existing parkland, 2.5 acres there, but pretty substantial cost at 4 million and outside of the urban growth boundary there. So again, want to make sure that that's high on the priority list. This is one that I'd love some clarity on. Aquatic center improvements and the development of a new aquatic center altogether. This is where I get a little nervous as your consultant in that if we pursue both of these, I want to make sure that there's enough differentiation to where this project list doesn't become a liability. I'm wondering if maybe one or the other is appropriate. Maybe we can consider taking out the aquatic center improvements and just go whole hog on trying to get the aquatic center completed. A couple of adding facilities projects, Three Sisters property and the disc golf course. Again, big footprints, really small project costs, but outside of the urban growth boundary for both of those. And then finally, the Ivy Street Ped Bridge, which is a trail development, pretty small in terms of overall mileage that we're adding, but of course it's a pedestrian bridge, so it's a big cost, $2 million there. So I've hit you over the head with a lot of different projects, and I'm curious if we and I'm open to recommendations here. Maybe we could go through each of these and have the committee provide some input as to whether or not these projects are low, medium, and high. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the Molalla River Canby utility property. How do we feel about that on a low, medium, and high basis?
Which one is
Oh,
that?
that's it, yeah. That's the one down by the police station.
Okay, that's what I thought, okay.
And that was one we were developing for a more natural area.
It's got a lot of potential for a lot of different things. Natural area, river access. Could be some future for fields of some type, soccer, whatever. But
What's the,
big area,
what's the floodplain down there? That,
100-year floodplain.
Part of it is in the 100-year floodplain, and we haven't like divided that part out, but it's gonna be challenging. And for river access, it's a bit less challenging if that's the goal. For development with the new regulations, I'm not sure where those are gonna go with the current administration, but prior to that switch over, there's endangered species in the Molalla River, and there's a biological opinion that came out of a lawsuit. So every city in Oregon is going through the same thing where you have floodplain, and you really basically can't do much in that at all with the new regulations. So the river, minus like a dot, if you were to actually put river access, that would be the one exception, I'd say.
is there a road you park to access that park? I haven't been, I've been down there since I was 8 years old, so I don't know how that works.
I think, behind the police station, there's, there is parking there, but if they could extend a road behind and to the Molalla River and go behind. I mean, were you with us when we walked that
Yeah.
property? I mean, it's quite
Right.
expensive.
I think the floodplain part, I'm just gonna wild guesstimate, that it may be quite a ways up to the center of that property. I mean, it's not like there's a bluff there. I don't know where that is exactly.
Right.
You guys went out there. I didn't go out on that field trip. You guys, this is like a couple of years ago. You guys were out there.
It's probably months ago.
But the bluff, I think, is above, but below the bluff is not where that line is, yeah.
So that property that's kind of round toward the bottom of the screen where the police station is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you come through and connect, you could do parking down in that wooded area, I guess, if you cleared some trees and stuff, and you could do walking up to Knightsbridge Park. Up that way, hiking trails or whatever. I mean, it's a nice piece of property. I mean, I guess public works guys that I've talked to, I mean, it hasn't really flooded it. I mean,
It doesn't flood on an annual basis down there, it would just be for.
So where are you suggesting field could be? Like
back towards the police station, that end toward the police. I mean, obviously you'd have to clear some. Some.
Quite a bit, I mean, it looks like it's pretty heavily wooded there.
My
You
only,
thin it out.
my only question would be, as we have seen, when it's hot, and there's anything close to a river, the car, 99E, nice bridge. you name it, they're lined up on it, so if you had another place. Are they gonna have to park up at the, I mean, if basically going down that hill is kind of the end of the pavement or parking. Street access. Is parking gonna be up top, and if parking's gotta be up top, then is there a space up there to provide?
I would think we'd have to,
You have to do a parking lot down below.
down below.
And is that something that, I guess with the new administrator, what are we talking about with all the,
If it's in the floodplain, it's not gonna happen, I can tell you that. Right? There's no way that's gonna happen. We're actually updating our floodplain ordinance as well. To be consistent with our attorneys to make it actually a bit more favorable than what the FEMA model ordinance is, but. It would be substantial mitigation, it would be cost prohibitive, I mean, to do that, you'd have to offset that impact. By like doing mitigation elsewhere, and it would probably not be worth it.
You know, when,
looks like awesome. And it's an awesome piece of property clearly, but
Well,
Yeah,
where are you gonna put people?
the parking is going to be, I mean, the demand for parking is completely different if you're talking about a natural area versus a sports area.
Yeah.
The sports area, you're gonna need a bunch of parking. If we kept it completely as a natural area, then you're gonna need minimal parking.
Well,
this,
It's river access.
I-
That's not
I
something.
mean, if it's like, I mean, I essentially view that would be kind of like a. I wanna say community park, but clearly you can't drive down to it, but that kind of river access where you can have people down there on the river during the summer.
Well, the
That-
river gets so low there that it would be, amenable to little, just like Knight's Bridges where little kids can get in it and, families can picnic by it and all of that stuff.
this wouldn't be one of my priorities, I mean, if I'm looking at development like. Soon, this wouldn't be one of my priority, and athletic fields, I'm not necessarily advocating. But this is a great spot for athletic fields, it's more of maybe a natural park or a nature area. Parking could possibly be at Knightsbridge Park. That's there already,
Right.
parking's there already.
If the
you
trail is
build
a loop trail situation.
If you build a bridge over connecting those two. I'm just saying, but this wouldn't be one of my. Projects to concentrate on right now, that's just me.
Well, I mean, I guess the good news is the utility owns it, right, and they're probably not gonna do much with it, and so it's always gonna
It's always-
potentially be there for
Right.
us if it came up, so.
Right.
So yeah, so I guess I don't know where, without actually seeing that, I mean, it looks like a fantastic piece, I just don't know where it fits into. How we're gonna, how we mold it in and how we do all the things with it.
And I think, Todd, what are you looking for? Are you looking for items that we feel that we would like to move? Towards soon?
Yeah, I think that this exercise is really meant to just give a sense for what you think is I think we're talking about basically categorizing it into low, medium, and high. High, I think that's probably something that you think the city needs to take on in the next 10, 20 years. Medium is okay, if we get the opportunity, we're definitely going to do it. Low, probably more like it'd be nice, but it's not a must. If that makes sense. I know it's very qualitative, which is a bit frustrating for a numbers guy like myself, but
Well. Just to move, let me give you my top 5 within the next 5 years. Would be Auburn Farms, the Honda Pits. The swim center, aquatic center, whatever, the dog park and Ivy Ridge. Those would be my top 5.
okay, run those by me again. I'm gonna
Auburn Farms. The Honda Pits. A swim center, aquatic center, rec center, however you wanna lump those together. The dog park and Ivy Ridge.
Can you show us on the map where Ivy Ridge is?
Is that a request for me, or would you like someone there to do that?
That was me. I got Google Maps pulled up on the screen over here, so sorry.
No worries.
Property's been dedicated, correct?
Correct.
It's already dedicated for our property.
These two properties have been dedicated to
Oh,
Six, your top six.
Yeah.
My top six, yeah, well, the Maple Street improvements to. Also would be another one, Tasha. Improvements to Maple Street Park. My top six, instead of top five.
I've had my screen sharing paused. Sorry about that. Here we go. So I've got high prioritization on all of these. So anything else that the committee'd like to see prioritized as high on this list?
Harry, you're not sure?
No, I'm still, I mean, it's too close in now.
If you go down,
But out of it.
if you go down Ivy Street,
So here's the.
there's the,
Okay,
that's Goodsbridge.
okay, so like, the, adult center is back
Yes.
this way, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hope Village,
Hope Village, right,
just south of Hope Village.
you can kind of see that, well, you can see the neighborhood anyway from Ivy.
Yeah.
The backs of those houses, so.
And there's basically two pieces of property,
And
one
how many acres is that?
to about, what's that, three? About the same size as Auburn Farms.
Okay,
Maybe a little bit bigger, cause there's two pieces of property, one on each side of the island.
okay, so there is her right there, so,
See, the walkway goes right behind those houses.
There's a potential for connection, absolutely.
Right. So you could do parking there in that one section and then develop the other. Thank you.
so there, I'm not sure if I'm talking about, this may be, anyway, my daughter has a friend and I believe that's where she lives and she's like right next to the smaller piece, I think. And she is talking to other neighbors and they're trying to organize to come to us and say what we want. Did she talk to you?
Was a few people from the HOA that reached out to me.
Yeah, so there's
Yeah,
three different, yeah, there's three different people that, or three different opinions about what should happen there. And I said, you know, come and talk to us.
Well, right now with the money,
And that's what I said, we're broke, actually, my exact quote was, we're brokey broke.
we're roughly broke.
But that's why it should be on the high, if there's all this interest.
Yeah,
it should
right.
be on the top, that's great.
Right.
Yeah,
And we talked, I mean, years ago, when this development was just going in, they were going to grade that. Put the sidewalks in, it's got the water and everything, the hookups there. Sidewalks in, grade it, seed it, it's a green space for now until we can
right,
figure out what else we want to do for it. with it.
right.
So. Maybe we could do that, but.
Right.
Not much more.
So if those are high. Should we label it medium, something like the middle of the projects that we want?
Didn't we have the aquatic complex rec center as a high too?
Well, that's the aquatic swim center, aquatic rec center, I mean, there, to me, that's. Do you make repairs or do you build new, I mean. I
Does
would,
everybody agree with what Barry said?
You don't do both.
yeah, well, you.
I was gonna say, you're just gonna.
Well-
I mean,
This was first the discussion.
Those were just mine.
I understand, that's it, no one else has any other input? I like,
I,
do you? Those were mostly mine too.
Kathy Ray has some.
Well, and I don't wanna go against the grain, but my voice is
No,
always
that's what we're
for
doing.
the, you know, the natural spaces, nature, waterfront, forest trails, that type of thing. Because my big concern, again, having grown up in Southern California, there is no space available. You can postage stamp little, green space and that's about it, and that's. In Orange County, it's just, you know, development as far as the eyes can see. And I just feel that where there are opportunities for forest area, wherever it's possible for us to acquire that, I know we've got a finite budget, but I just feel like it's something that I feel is definitely worth looking at to be able to acquire those spaces and have nature trails and things, because it, I don't know, an eco-friendly environment.
And that Malala River utility property would be great,
Yeah,
because there's trees and there's, what did you want, Mr. Biscayne?
Well, I was thinking just some sort of land acquisition.
we don't have any to build new parks, so. The sports complex, the aquatic center, any of those things I think would be useful, and also Wake Park. That would be towards money, what am I too? But we can't build anything because we don't have any land.
And feel free to shout at me if I'm misinterpreting what I'm hearing here as I type on my table. So I'm hearing Wake Park improvements. That's probably also high. We do have sports complex land acquisition, which will be between 50 and 75 acres. So we will be acquiring land there for that, because I mean, without that, we can't do the sports complex. So I figure those are probably both high in terms of priority. Land acquisition, if we're looking at other opportunities for land acquisition, looks like these are our opportunities.
Right.
Well, in the previous slide chart, did we see a breakdown by, like athletic fields, natural areas, those kinds of things, so that we could kind of see where we're at versus what because I know in the master plan, it says what our goals are for each of those categories. And I'm just wondering if that would be information that could help us, pick top priorities where we have the largest deficit, we could be prioritizing adding to that.
Is this the table you were talking about
Yeah.
there? Okay,
Yeah.
great. So right now, this is your current inventory. This column here, the 2025 acres. So in terms of units, you've got 31.2 acres of community parks and 30.7 acres of natural areas and open space. In terms of raw acreage, those are your two biggest categories by far. It's harder, of course, to get higher numbers of neighborhood parks and pocket parks in terms of acreage, just because by their nature they're small. So I think 14.4 isn't crazy when you compare it to community parks at 30, basically half the amount.
And you don't have the information from the master plan about what our goals were there?
I know that the overall goal of the master plan was a 10 acre per 1,000 residents goal. So with this project list, you would exceed that. In terms of specific categories, no, I don't have that off
Right.
the top of my head, sorry.
And none of this is broken down into sports areas.
Well, in a sense, I suppose you're right, because there's no sports areas designation here in the data that we have. And your athletic complex that we're thinking about, the 50 to 75 acre athletic complex, I categorize that into community parks just because it seemed easier than creating a brand new category for that. So that's a big reason why you're seeing this go from 31 to 110, is you're adding 65.5 acres to that category right there, just from that one project alone.
Yeah. Well, for practical purposes and because I'm just thinking about what community members use park land for. And some of it is like family functions and events, picnicking and, just hanging out with the family and going to the, play structures and all of that. That's kind of one piece. And I think that would be a category, but then there's the sports thing with the soccer and the baseball and football and lacrosse and all of those things. Even tennis, and I don't even know if we have anything aside from what's at the high school. So to me, like, the categories could be more, could give us more information and give us a better roadmap if they were a little bit different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. Sounds like maybe we're looking at a different breakdown of existing and future facilities in terms of the amenities that they provide.
Yeah, cause I think, it's been a long time since I looked at the master plan, but I wanna say that it did break it down into, we need this many acres of sports complex, we need this many acres of playgrounds and this many acres of dog park and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And
that
it
makes
even broke
sense.
it down into the areas, you know, okay, so these people have plenty of this stuff, but they don't have enough of this stuff.
Right by north-south
Right,
quadrant.
exactly.
The problem that I see for it, we don't have any under the current, you know, land availability.
Yeah,
The city doesn't own anything except for really the Malala River community or can be utility property. I mean, most of the property that can be developed is owned by the school. Anything that is any size whatsoever, it's all owned by the school. And until then, we can work out some
so,
nice deal with the school and get a large swath of land.
so I'm kind of feeling like what David's point is that we don't have any land, so we're dead in the water without space to do some of these things.
That,
We have a couple of little places that, you know, like the Ivy Ridge is there. The Redwood Landing is there, you know, there's a few things that we have that are kind of loaded and ready to go. But for the most part, all of these things are kind of wish listy.
that's why my top six was top six.
Yeah.
Those others were
Because we
loaded
have
and
it.
ready to go.
Right, and
There is, we need to buy land, we need to get land.
right. So I think David's point of putting that land acquisition in that top five is probably. You know, I don't know which gets squeezed out, but
But it's in,
Well,
it's in there, the athletic complex, right? Or that 60 acres or whatever. So that's a big chunk. What other one would we
yeah,
add?
it is.
So what other one do you wanna add?
I don't wanna know, he was just talking about land acquisition in general terms, right?
I think Todd added.
That's what he said.
Todd added it.
If
I agree.
And
can't real quick, Tim, I got a question for you. As far as breaking this down, as far as your high, medium and low. I don't know how many projects are totally on the list for a number, is it roughly 25?
We've got 26. Good eye.
Okay,
26.
so if we're in that. You know, over 25, do we need to break this out evenly, or could we have, 15 projects that are high priority, 5 and 5? Or what's your recommendation for something like that? Cause I think that might help the group. Kind of, instead of worrying about trying to come up with a top 5.
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And the answer to that is there's really no hard and fast rule here. I mean, I think it needs to pass
Great
a
question.
credulity test, right? But I think as long as it all makes sense, and I, you know, in hearing what you're talking about, it sounds like we've got a good chunk of park development projects here, which is great, and a few that are adding facilities to existing parks, which I think it makes a ton of sense. You've got one ambitious land acquisition target here, but that's pretty much for a designated use, right? Like we're only going to get the one big park out of that. So sounds like the committee's sort of thinking about, okay, let's add maybe a couple of these land acquisition targets to high, and that's fine. I think as long as there's that there are low and medium projects, I think we'll be just fine. So
okay, so I have two questions. Our medium, so our high range was from the next 10 to 20 years. Medium was what?
well, it's more like what do we need to sustain the park system is high. What is something that we'd like to do in the next 20 years if resources are available, and then I think low probably is more like this would be really nice if the opportunity presented itself, but it's probably not going to happen. Is a good way to think about it.
Okay. And then Barry, could you repeat your top 5? So we can talk about them specifically again?
Well, I had Auburn Farms, which we,
Right, we're,
we're supposed to be working on. that.
right,
The Honda Pits, which is the fun park and skate park, we've talked about that. Swimson. I'm looking at sports complex, land acquisition. The aquatic center and the rec center, to me, that kind of all goes into want. I mean, it's like, if we've got that kind of land. It could be an aquatic center, rec center,
Okay,
it's really all at one.
Trails and also, I mean, a lot of them have trails and all
Trails,
kinds of stuff.
yeah, they put trails through the dog park, which that's in the works, Walnut. Walnut Street Extension. And Ivy Ridge, which is the subdivision by Hope Village. I mean, those are all things that we thought we'd be able to do within the next 1 to 2 years. The Malala River, Canby utility property. That's a nice thing, that would be great, could be walking trails, river access, all kinds of stuff, but I see that as a medium to low. I don't see us, you know, I mean. The utility property isn't available right now, I mean, that's still theirs, so we'd have to,
right,
there'd be some kind of swap, so. But then all these land acquisitions can be school district. I mean. They've got a quarter on the market, they've got all the, anything that's any size at all. The school district's got it.
I have a question, and I don't know if this is relevant, it seems relevant in my mind. Is there a possibility of having a discussion with the appropriate people with the school district and say, this, we have a need for land, this is what we're looking at, doing a new improved swim center, rec center, whatever the thing, and say this could be beneficial to both the school and the community, and we would like to establish or begin a dialogue in a partnership for us doing that, because it seems to me, if it's on their land and they have access to it for, whatever their sports teams, water polo, whatever, it could be beneficial to them, but it would also take some of the burden off of our budget.
that's kind of the situation we're in right now.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they kind of have us over a barrel.
You're not cooperating.
No.
It's part of this.
No.
There is a conversation that does need to happen, and this is, I don't wanna get way into the weeds on other aspects of this, but there is a conversation we have to have with the school district on. Are they interested in that kind of partnership? I mean, not maybe the details, but basically selling land or doing long-term leases. That's an important element as we get into the concept, we're gonna get into concept planning. Which is not really related to this exercise, but there's an interrelationship which has to do with land that will be expanded, the city will expand into. And so that question does need to be answered. Department of Land Conservation and Development wants us to ask that question of the school district, and there was a planned meeting to occur. The mayor is trying to get time to have that meeting with the school district, and that is an important discussion. It's a high level discussion without a lot of like specific details, because again, back to the funding, all the eggs would have to go into one basket, literally. It's more of a concept discussion about willingness and what would that look like if in fact there was some discussion around that. Would there be any interest at all in them selling property or not? That's a huge question mark, which influences this substantially, because a leased property would not be equivalent to a fee-owned property in its acreage and calculation and what that really was doing for the city. It's just not the same. So that does play into that discussion. So there will be some discussions around that, and this will help also in the defensibility piece about saying, well, the school district probably is not willing, or they are willing to participate in that discussion, which will help refine this list.
Yeah, because it seems to me that, if there was the caveat that the acquisition or long-term lease, what have you, that property would be contingent upon the development of this particular project, which would be useful and beneficial to the high school as well as the community, as opposed to just, we'd like to acquire some of your land.
Yeah, and I think it probably would more likely be Ackerman and not the high school. I don't think the high school is in play, because I know that they're pretty. At least when they put their outdoor lights out there, it's like, no, this is not for the community. This is for our events. They were very specific about that. So I think it would be Ackerman that would probably be the question mark.
And
Yes.
Pardon my ignorance, but that's a grade school, correct?
Junior high.
Yeah,
Well,
that
it's
is-
it's one other,
Now,
yeah.
it's a shuttered
So, but that would, that, again, this is kind of high level here, but I do think that ranking is really important. Cause this will start to help in several ways, one on the STC methodology and kind of where the council ends up going on and how we sort this out and what stays on the list and perhaps what may get deferred out beyond 20 years. Secondly, it's gonna help with the concept planning, which we will add to showing conceptual park areas. In, you know, both in and outside of the city, more particularly outside of the city where conceptual parkland would end up going.
The one thing that I keep hearing that they don't wanna get into the situation again is like the situation we have right now at the swim center. The city or the school owns the property, the city owns the building. And they have plans to remodel that building, but they don't really wanna go into that. Who's not, I mean, I guess the city doesn't wanna put more money into the building because they don't own the land.
Yes, that's understandable.
And the school hasn't been very cooperative, so
Yeah.
there's, you know. Putting money into a situation that we don't have control over is not very responsible.
Yeah, I like that
And so
idea.
long-term in play, and I would agree with that, and also just formulaically, you know, like I said, leased land is not gonna be like a 1-to-1. It's gonna be something less than 1-to-1 in terms of accounting for like, acreage. I mean, it just is not as usable unless we control it as a city.
They have a 20-year lease though now, I believe, right?
I don't know about the swim center, that is.
It was, I believe it was.
And with another tenant, put on it.
I know there's been some challenges with, I'm hoping with the current switch out and the superintendent being newer, that would be a better conversation than what maybe has happened before.
Is the wayside area considered in this open space at all?
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah,
Tim, do you want to answer that question? That
Um,
I saw it on the list.
yeah, the Willamette Wayside Natural Area, I think that that would be classified as open space, but it is also outside of the urban growth boundary.
right, but is that in that chart that you were showing?
In the table, no, because it's outside of the urban growth boundary.
What is on the wayside, it's got 3 million for adding facilities. Well,
Yeah,
what are we thinking on that? Was $3 million price tag?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
See, I bring the good questions.
You want it back, yeah.
I just bring.
because my understanding is it needs to stay as a natural area, which, you know, so you're talking trees and paths and.
Well, on the wayside,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but everything that I've always been told is it needs to stay.
Well,
Yeah.
and then there might be a parking lot situation that we probably need to do, if we're gonna, which I think we could do on the Three Sisters property, right? Put that in there in that section, but I guess I don't, who came up with the dollar, so on here it says, we're now I'm lost,
17
facilities,
Walnut
and then the
Street.
cost was 3 million, how did that come about?
Yeah,
Who,
Say that again?
so on the like wayside, it has the adding facilities and then a $3 million price tag. I mean, we came up with,
$3 million, yeah, who put that price tag on there?
Tim, can you scroll to the right to see the notes there?
the note is from me because I noted that I noted that I changed the category to adding facilities, because the city owns the property. The dollar amount is from Public Works. And in terms of the specifics of,
Hey, you.
We had
That's-
talked about potential river access there,
That's
that's
a
why
big
you cited that.
I believe, and I didn't want to say anything because I wasn't 100% sure, but I believe it was to try to come up with some sort of an access for
Yeah.
kayaks, paddle boards, something like that. So it wasn't so much a full-on boat ramp, but someplace where foot traffic.
sure,
And then there's piling, I don't remember if the pilings are down there, or if they're down farther, I don't remember where the pilings are, the city owns and maintains for maybe doing a dock system. Or something.
is there area, and again, the parking, because obviously there's no parking there now, can you add parking to the Three Sisters side of things? Because I believe that's the only area that's really buildable,
So right now,
but we don't.
technically, all of that is outside of the UGB.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of. And. You'd be a better expert on this than me as far as like,
So
what
that is,
what it
that's
would
like,
take
that's
for,
stuff that we're not looking
It's-
at right now?
It's, the problem is, in 2010, when this legislature put a map together, that was designated rural reserve, not undesignated, which means that it has to stay undeveloped. You could probably do some limited development, it'd be through county authorization, because the county controls it, even though we own it through their jurisdictional authority. A parking lot might be a push, there's conservancy areas in that, those areas as well. This whole thing came up at the dog park discussion two or 3 years ago. And we were gonna, basically, the idea was to have the dogs run out there on grass, but not have any, and have some utility like water out there irrigating. But not have any pavement out there, because it's a very delicate dance, and we never went far enough down that path with the county to finally even figure out if water could be extended out there, because it's, again. It's exclusive farm, rural reserve, it's not supposed to ever come into the boundary. Or at least,
And that includes the Three Sisters property as well?
which is that to the north, is that, can you point out?
Yeah.
so the, on the Three Sisters is this. Right here,
Where the house is.
where the house used to be,
Like where the sewer or whatever is, that's where they're planned,
so,
That's, yeah,
It's
so
the
they
whole,
can,
it's the whole thing, it's all of that that's been that that's in the natural area, going all the way to the river.
So where people park now to go through the field. You know where I'm talking
I
about?
totally do, yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
area, I mean, the most I ever see up there is maybe 4, maybe 5 cars. I think that could be reconfigured so that, and now that that neighborhood is being developed. There could be street parking there, I mean, you could probably accommodate, I would guess maybe like 10 cars there. And I don't know that, I mean, if it was only walk-in,
Yeah.
you know, you had to carry your kayak and all of that stuff in. I don't know that it would need much more than that.
I think it could be if it was like a natural path or something, it's probably not a big deal. at all.
Right.
Bark, chip or gravel.
Right, well, we have now just a little bit, you
That
know,
would be, again, I think the
Enhanced.
county, it could be permitted to the county.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be not in this, it's never gonna be overly, it's never gonna be controlled by the city as
Yeah.
an annex property.
right. Yeah, well, I'm just advocating that it be. The environment be. Developed so that it can be a habitat. So that our wildlife would have a chance to, you know, come back, because we lost a lot of it from all of the development.
And I think something like that could completely be in play there, right? The price tag, I don't, can't really speak to like.
Yeah.
What that would be, but something like that would work. It's unfortunate that. The legislature did not like, I mean, again, depending on your perspective, if you want it as open space, but
Right.
we can't control it is the problem.
Yeah,
That the city can't control it.
right. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like that's one of the deficits that we have in our park system is the open natural, you know. Habitat areas.
so the wayside property, is it kind of similar than, what I'm hearing is that the city will never control that whole area?
It's gonna be in the county, it'll be.
So
100%.
that's similar to what we're talking about with the school district, like, we can kind of do some stuff on there, but it's not really ours.
Depending on the school district's perspective on acquisition, which we don't know, if it's the same as it always has been, we'll lease it to you, that's a totally different situation than
It's kind of the flip, because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
own it, but the county controls it.
But I only brought it up because it's like 89 more acres of open space that's not really on
Yeah.
the list.
Well,
That,
I mean, it's kind of in our hands, and we can,
I mean,
we
people
can
can
throw
go
some,
down
we
there
can
and
kind of
use
do
it.
some stuff with it, because it's already ready to, I mean, this trail, I mean, we can
Right.
build our trail system and make it kind of a better spot than
Right.
it is.
Right now, they just go in there and
Uh,
wholesale mow it and for fire control concerns. But if we were to do some, you know. Planting and plant trees and natives and allow some things, right now, there's a strip of trees and native trees that have started right in the middle of the field. And I know they're gonna mow them right on down, and they're 4 feet tall right now, we could let that grow and. Be like, anyway, grass trail.
Just like a quick check on time. I know we got a
Yeah.
total agenda here and we don't want to go beyond what our point is. Could I ask a quick favor? I don't know if we can even get there, but like the rest of these on medium and low, can we spend like just a couple minutes? Sure. Do we need to come back and talk more? I just want to give Tim the direction and honor the fact that other folks have other things on the agenda, so.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Okay. I know this is always an interesting and entertaining topic of conversation, so. So what do we think about the Canby utility property, medium or low there?
Medium, be nice to do.
And the school district property, I mean, I know that's a bit up in the air just because we need their cooperation.
Well, they control a lot, I think if.
I think medium is best case.
Medium.
It's the control.
Okay, I'm gonna skip this one just because I think I'll probably take that one off the open space acquisition just because it's there's no specifics behind it. Bike trail extension, land acquisition category, again, outside of the urban growth boundary here.
Low.
Great. Willamette Wayside,
Oh. Cause I don't think you'll ever. Get it.
I would vote medium.
I would agree with you.
I think it's a low cost, low hanging fruit that we, yeah,
I'm a big few trees. Trail, trees and trails.
yeah, trees and trails, that's it. Cheap,
acquiring the former adult center site,
Low.
Knightsbridge Park acquisition,
Oh,
Emerald Necrolis right-of-way acquisition,
whoa.
low.
I think medium,
yeah.
green space.
What, can you? Not to take too much time, but when we say that acquisition, what, is there a parcel that we're looking at on that? I know. That thing was supposed to go kind of all around the city, but I don't know what we're talking about when we. And part of it, I just don't think we can. Acquire because it's all home, right?
That's why, oh,
Well, I think east side of Ivy. You know, where it crosses there, just where the other new park is, that new houses are going up. I think that piece of land would be important to it. Right?
I guess that's why it would be low to medium, it'd be nice to do, I think Brian's really kind of working on an Emerald Necklace. Line of this.
Well, certain pieces of it will come in with development as development comes in. I think our interpretation of this line item was the city would potentially look beyond that to look at parcels that weren't related to development.
And I guess we just need to see where that shakes out.
Yeah, so it's just it's a ballpark.
Right, shoot, yeah.
Question, so if it's. Outside of areas of potential development, are we looking at a, when I think of Emerald Necklace, I think of a continuity of space. As opposed to, you know, here's development, there's a little bit here, a little bit there, so it would be. The entire border circling that area would all be dedicated to green space, even if there is development, that's like. An area that would be left to be a natural space, yes.
I think. I'm gonna say that it will never, I don't think it's ever gonna be continuous green space, just because all those. Cause I think the original plan was to kind of go all the way like Malala down to Miami and all that, and there's house, you just can't, there's no place to put the necklace. So the necklace would have to be like a birch, like if you're gonna do that, it'd have to come out to Knightsbridge and then pop up on Birch, if you're gonna do a bike ride, say. You'd have to come out and then it'd have to pop up on Birch and then go down that, cause you just can't get back to the river. There's the homeowners and all that. That's for the name, and then domain all that. Just kidding, but that, it just won't, I mean, there's just not a way to make it all. Green space, because that, it's already been taken, so what, I think when we started this, it was, we can get what we can get now. And then have to figure out how to kind of puzzle it together with the pieces we can't get, because, I mean, anything, I mean, from Knightsbridge. Basically, all that is all private property.
And then beyond, farmers generally don't aren't super interested in selling off a narrow strip of their land. That's why when the subdivisions come in, it's a lot easier. The city just requires them to dedicate their piece of it.
Yeah, so that makes sense, and I think
Yeah,
part of it
it's-
is,
In my mind, you know, necklace is, there's
Yeah.
continuity, so there's not an opportunity for that too.
I think maybe years ago they hoped there would be, but,
Well, that's why I say, you know, get it,
Yeah.
maintain it, or you
right.
lose it, you lose it, so.
yeah, I think they're
Where'd we-
trying to get everything they can, I think the problem is that about half of it's already been built on for the
Right.
last
Right.
75 years, and so that part you just can't.
Where did we leave off, Todd?
No.
It's like we're-
Log road improvement.
Kim,
Yeah, we're getting to the logging road improvements, land acquisition and adding facilities, so separate line items there.
And that was part of the, having a parking lot portal on the south side was one of the ideas that was floated for that. Cause there's no way to really get to the trail.
That would be medium.
Oh,
Medium.
that was what the doctor came and talked to us about
Right.
the last time, okay.
Medium. For both, yeah.
Okay, community river park improvements.
That could use to know.
Well,
At least medium.
Yeah, I would agree with medium high.
Okay,
and we've already got it, it would be, you know, again, a low hanging fruit where we could add. Some bells and whistles. Shush it up and it would be way better.
My favorite word.
So you got.
Red-
Nick, is that where you're at?
Redwood Landing improvements is where we're at.
That's another one, that was the one that I would love to see as just a wildlife observation area, which seems like it would be a relatively expensive project.
Medium.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a real enhancement for those folks, I think.
River access points at Willamette Molalla, putting river access to include docks for kayak, paddleboard access.
And where's that? Redwood Landing?
No, sorry, this is a different.
Next one.
I was like, oh. Oh,
And Tim, I think that's one of the potential overlaps because the
Mm,
Willamette Wayside
Yeah.
where the cost of a potential. River access was kind of built into the cost for that line item, but then when you get to this one, it's kind of treated as its own. So I don't know if you wanna
Mhm.
reconcile those two.
I'll put a note here and make sure that I follow up with you guys to see if there's overlap. Okay, so I'm gonna put that as medium or low.
Medium.
Medium.
Okay. And Three Sisters property access.
No,
what is that? I thought they were gonna use that for water reclamation.
Yeah, I think that this is
Water.
part of it's river access associated with future wastewater treatment plant. Estimate is for parking since river access is above.
Yeah, those pine trees are really taking off. And there's even 3 of the cedars that have survived.
Your disc golf course holes. And then finally Ivy Street pedestrian bridge. Okay, awesome. Well, that does it for me. I really appreciate your attention and your input today. This is really crucial. I know that this is a bit of a slog of a process, but I really appreciate your patience and your attention.
So Tim, these, like each time these slides and presentations should be attached to the minutes, right? And are they?
In this instance, they're not, but I will send out these slides, just because
Okay.
it kind of came together at the last second today.
do you send
Okay.
the slides to Tom or Ryan?
Yeah, and then
Send it to
sometime-
Me and I'll send. it.
Not to me, I mean, I'll send you the minutes and you send them where they're supposed to go, but I just wanted to make sure that the documents came in as well. Cause it's way too much to. We've got an umbrella over here.
Thank you.
Kim, so just real quickly, and because I know we got other things going on, but we hopefully can come back on the 19th of August again to maybe have a continuation of this discussion, and this will be after the July 23rd system development charge work session with city council, so that'll be a continuation. There's more to talk about. You guys have other things to go over tonight, but I think this is helpful to start to narrow this down a bit further.
Yeah, and Don, well said. We're certainly going to come back to you guys and have a more substantive conversation about how this all
Yep.
comes together. But you know, as we've talked about a little bit, the project list, we had to build that thing from scratch, and that's pretty unusual. So it's a testament to everyone's you know, patience and passion for parks that we're getting this done. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks,
Y'all have a great evening.
Thanks for your patience on the house wall. I'm gonna exit right.
Yes.
And I had a good day. Yeah.
All right, thanks, Don. We will move on to our normally scheduled parks meeting at this point. At this point, though, we have some guests, so maybe they could introduce themselves. Yeah, we'll start here.
Hopefully. John Noordwijk, and we moved to Canby 2.5 years ago. We live on 22nd Avenue. We lived for 15 years in West Lynn. We moved to Sun River for 9 years, and then we moved back to the valley. Because we got a little bit concerned with the fires and the smoking in the high desert.
All right, well, before you go on, let's just get introductions first, and then we'll come back to your issue.
Hi, I'm Tom Feller, that's my wife Suzanne, we're new residents of a year in Ivy Ridge.
Okay,
So we're just gonna be attending to, because our neighborhood is trying to help give you guys some advice, so.
What was your last name again?
Feller.
Feller.
F like Frank, ELLER, I'm THOM Tom, and she's SUZANNE.
Okay.
So I'm just representing Ivy Ridge Estates.
good. Well, and we need to try to make it quick, because we got a lot to go, so we'll start with you. What do you,
Friends of us donated a couple of benches in Canby, and we thought it's a nice idea to do. So we live on 22nd around the corner on Locust, this new project, the Auburn Farms project.
Bird Farms, yeah?
We thought maybe it's a nice idea to donate a bench there.
Oh, so
That's
have you been directed to the website on the city's page to fill out, there's a form to fill out?
I still do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you fill out that form, because I have another one, if you fill out that form and you can email it to me,
Okay.
it's,
It should have direction
Well,
on
it
the
should,
form
yeah.
about where it's supposed to go, because ultimately it's supposed to be the director of the public work. So Spencer, who is acting as that now?
Spencer.
Oh, you are, okay. So Spencer will end up with it.
But if you have trouble finding the application, you can email me and I'll send you a link.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah, just fill out that application, then we'll carry that from there.
And so
We
along,
appreciate your
yeah,
Yeah.
Sure.
along that line, as I had said to you, is that I think it would be neat to provide a link to the application and explain to folks that Auburn Farms has several opportunities for donating trees, benches, and picnic tables. And if people are interested, they could follow the link, and I could post this on Friends of Canby Parks, if that's something that you think that we would. No, we're not ready for.
I don't know exactly logistically how to do that at the moment, because currently the park is out for bid and all kind of the benches and everything has kind of been designed and where they're going.
So it might be something that we just wanna put on that, because we're in a kind of a holding pattern.
Right.
Yeah,
But when this gets, we can bring it up then.
yeah.
Yeah, cause we talked about that from the get-go, is that it might, it's a way to help defray some of the costs of the park itself, so I understand.
I don't know
Bid
what
problem.
portion
But
to try to implement that, so before we say,
Yeah.
yes, we're providing the link to do all
Right.
that, I'm gonna have a side conversation first.
Yeah, okay,
We're pretty easy, our neighborhood is just, we've got a little sort of our own neighborhood. Group, this meeting, including
We-
emailing the Ivy Ridge
we
Estates.
just were looking at your spot.
I just saw that.
Yeah.
And so our home is on toward the highway, Ivy. And so we trying there, so we're just trying to hear what you guys are planning, because we're sending out surveys to everybody in the neighborhood to see what they think they want. We're trying to keep it minimalist, because we want it
Right.
to be a neighborhood walk through, nothing fancy, because we know the city likes to keep things less expensive. But we're just avoiding noise abatement and stuff like that, and new parking, so we're trying to hope we stay set as a neighborhood park. And so one of us from our neighborhood will be here every meeting just to observe and get to know you guys and see if you need us to bring a cooler with beer or something.
Well, where we're at right now, we just discussed this. I mean, Ivy Ridge is another one of the, would be like the Auburn Farms Park that we're trying to put in right now. The city's kind of in a money crunch right now. We
Right.
don't have really any plans to develop that park, other than hopefully we can complete the sidewalks.
That's
Maybe
our main concern.
maybe put some seed in and green it up.
Yep.
Just grade it and green it.
Yeah, we're just trying to avoid anything like any structural stuff or see what you guys, but what you just said is what a lot of the folks want, and we'll give you an idea as things progress, how you're moving. Cause the other thing is the sidewalks but that's where the path ceases to be a necklace, is right at the edge
Right.
of that property.
Yeah.
Which I don't think you guys are gonna get that access for quite a while, I don't know the builder, but anyway.
Exactly.
But, cause there's a home right there on the path.
Yeah.
But that, like last night, I wish I would have known what was going on, I would have run out there, but some kids decided to have a fire in the middle of the short part of the park, a little happy meeting, but there's no stone ring, they just
Right,
burned a hole.
I
and
heard,
You already heard?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, what the heck, cause I heard a firework go
Right.
off, and I should have run out there and said, hey, cause I live right around the corner from that.
yeah,
Cause that would just go. boom.
exactly, yeah, that could be,
Yeah.
it's a disaster waiting to
And
happen.
so one of our residents did go out there, I read, and was sort of just saying what's going on, so they all split and were giving them the one figure salute, is that,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, so anyways, once it's greened up and maybe the sidewalks are done, it's just a green space. We're just gonna participate in listening, and we'll give you some ideas as things go along, cause I know the budget isn't gonna develop some, cause you guys just worked on that off of 13th.
Yeah,
Yeah, with the big, right by Ackerman, what used to be Ackerman Elementary, there's that exercise and.
right, yeah,
So we're trying to direct anybody who's interested in that stuff toward that park.
yeah, go on.
So, you guys really don't want like a playground structure and work for.
If we did, it would be, right now, we have a second survey going out for people, what they want, then we're gonna rank them. We're just trying to, maybe if there's a playground, it would be a small one, because all of us are old enough to understand that nobody uses it, even though there's kids in the neighborhood, they all go to school, they come home. And we're trying to avoid any congregation spots like what happened last night.
Right, well, having it undone at all, having it completely
Right,
wild, makes it an attractive nuisance.
right, and so.
People think that it's just a free for all.
Right, so if you sidewalk it, put
Right.
like a meandering sidewalk, maybe a bench, but no bathrooms, no gazebos,
Right.
just something minimalist. So
Yeah.
you guys can tell the city, hey, we're not spending a lot of money.
Right.
That's what we're all kind of working toward.
Yeah,
There are some folks who want basketball hoops and bigger playgrounds and.
and the people that live right next to it don't want that.
No, it's noise abatement, and then also because the neighborhood designation is there's no parking, it's just street parking. And the streets they look nice because most of us park in our driveways.
Right,
But like on one end, if you get cars on either side, the fire engine can barely go down the middle.
right,
So
Well,
we're just here to do that.
It's nice that you are kind of doing a survey, and they'll bring it to us.
Yep.
And then we can review it and go on, but we're probably a ways.
Well, that's what
But we might be able to sidewalks and grading and.
yeah, that sidewalks, and then we had a couple residents concerned because on one on the south end of the park, on the west end, there's some drainage issues. So they didn't know whether you guys are sloping. On our side, we go out our back gate, we have a space that's 2 feet and then 2.5 feet high, step up into the park. So don't know if you're gonna grade and do that, but just finish the sidewalks, put in a decent lawn, so it doesn't look like it's a wild place to let's
Yep.
party, which, you know, when I was a kid here in town, we went to the Wagon Bridge, so.
Yeah,
All right,
But that was in 73, so there you go.
years ago.
Yeah.
well, great. Thank you for coming.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're just in
Sharing.
attendance in that, and if we might leave a little early, cause you know, just as long as, you
Yeah.
know, one of us will be here. And as soon as we have any information from you from our neighborhood, we'll ask who we should send it to, or we'll just give you a hard copy.
Okay,
Well.
well,
Question slash suggestion. Might your neighbors consider like planting trees or having community tree planting day or something if they want any trees in that area?
Well, that was what we were saying, you know, we would, cause it's just a bare strip, so if, I can't remember, there's one neighborhood on this side of town that sort of has a meandering sidewalk through the middle. And there's a couple of maples, you know, nothing, no conifers, but maples, so in the summer it blocks shade a little bit. That would break it up and be nice, yeah, we'd be very interested in knowing about that, cause that's what, we even have one of our people. There's a lot of birds along that ridge, so
Yeah.
making it a bird
Yeah,
park, you know, that's what we're looking at,
yeah.
so. Bird park, you know, in other words, let them go to the bathroom in those trees.
yeah,
Yeah.
But it's a nice area, but there's just no parking, and it's weird for you guys, cause it's split, I mean, you got 2/3.
Right,
Steps and then 2/3, so what we'd like, if you finish the sidewalks, is maybe the sidewalk through the middle connecting to that path. Because your necklace, what we do is we get to that point, we walk up Fir, go down 16th, and then reconnect to that path as it continues. Toward the community park.
You can't sell that piece back to the city, right?
no. But that one little piece could become parking.
Yeah, that's what we're worried about.
Well,
Cause it's a
want that.
big parking lot, yeah, cause what happens is it's sort of off-site. And the poor folks on either side of that are,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But it's right next to the path and you know, the cliff and the green space, so that could be sort of the extension of
green,
green.
yeah,
All right,
just
well-
green it up.
We're not gonna solve that.
No, but, and then we're thinking,
So
we're thinking budget wise, you guys weren't even gonna approach this until 26, you know, at the
Right.
earliest, but. But we're gonna just hang out, well, some of us will try and be here at least every meeting.
Yeah.
So is there a meeting in July or not, on this
Yeah.
third Tuesday? There is on the third Tuesday?
I will let the board know,
Oh, okay,
and because you never know.
yeah, and there's 4 of us,
The way the conditions,
yeah, there's 4 of us that have volunteered to neighbor to come. And so that's just in case, as you can see, one of us showed up.
Yeah.
So, which is good, we didn't know you guys were gonna be this busy.
Yeah.
all right, if you wanna stay for the rest of the meeting, or if you wanna leave.
Oh, no, we're cool, unless you have any questions for us, we'll just
No.
update you and come say hi, and then, like I said, if
Okay.
you need me to bring a cooler, let me know.
You guys are good? Thank you. All right, Spencer, if, you
Thank you
have
for coming
anything
by
to
today.
tell us.
One of my updates was that I was reached out by several members of the Ivy Ridge HOA that wanted to know what our plans were for there, and I invited them down, and they came down.
There you go.
Update, because I know this is gonna be a hot topic for you, as well as the rest of the board, is Auburn Farms. Is currently out to bid. Originally, it was supposed to have the bid opening on Thursday. We ran into some slight issues, so we had to extend the bid for an additional week, so the bid opening got pushed to the 26th. So we will get pricing back on that on the 26th, and then we're still moving forward on the Auburn Farms project. Timber Park sign was relocated into
Oh, you did?
flower beds.
Excellent.
That's good, thank you. Yes, yeah, the guys felt bad that it took them so long after the last meeting to get out there, but. With trying to get irrigation stuff, we had a couple of irrigation leaks on First Avenue, and then trying to get the surfacing done for the playgrounds.
Did the mayor come over and thank you?
You know, I don't know if you did or not.
He's not here tonight.
He's not here tonight, so he must be okay with it. That is kind of all I have for any kind of major.
Sorry, Mark, just a quick question, just circle back to Oliver Farms.
Mhm.
Bid, it's out to bid, should be back by next Thursday.
Mhm.
And then.
Well-
The decision's made, does that have to go to council then?
Yeah, so once we get the bids back, everything gets tabulated, we get a notice of intent to award for the project to the contractor. That goes out to everyone that bid, they have 7 days to contest if they feel like that. I don't think we've ever really had to worry about something like that, but they have 7 days to do so. It goes to council for a first reading. Then it has to go to a second reading, and then there is a 30-day waiting period, and then we can sign contracts and they can start work.
So,
Thanksgiving.
yeah,
It'll be before Thanksgiving unless council doesn't approve the contract.
But if they have questions, we can click back, and so like 2 readings,
So-
takes a month about.
Yeah, so does have to go through the 2
Since
readings.
July.
So right now I'm still hoping that we can make the July 2nd for the first reading. Second reading would be on the 16th, and then technically we could sign contracts and potentially get work in August.
so breaking ground potentially August? No, yes?
Potentially in August.
If everything goes.
If everything goes smoothly,
What could you?
what can go wrong? There's quite a few things coming up right now, I'm sorry. I got a few hats to juggle at the moment, so I am falling behind. So I apologize. I will say that originally the contract had said that it had to be done the first week of June, and I changed it to 200 days from those to proceed, which would, if my timeline works out, it should be in spring break. So if everything goes to plan. Oh, and that also does bring up a question. Remembered the Maple Street Park improvements for the parking lot.
Mhm.
The engineer record is aware and is kind of getting some stuff ready to start working on that. He does have a couple of other things that he's working on outside of that, but once we get the SDC list finalized, then it's eligible for those funds, so it should be able to smooth.
That's great.
So forgot that on my update, but other than that, I don't have.
Playground too, or just park?
The playground, we don't necessarily need the engineering done for a parking lot. I think we still have the designs from when we were looking at it. So it would just be a matter of updating those quotes. But we have to wait till the STC is just.
Okay.
On the Maple Street, are the scoreboards operational yet?
They are.
Oh, they are.
Another thing I forgot to put on that list is the scoreboards were never actually wired. And I don't know how that got missed or whose job it was. But yes, the scoreboards are working now, but I have to figure out where to install the switch because I didn't know that it needed the switch to turn on and off, so they're just on all the time, or I go turn them on forever. But I did go out and test it, scoreboards work, controllers work, so.
The,
They're not game ready, so
No.
we get to switch.
No, I will make sure that they are game ready, even if I have to show up every morning and turn them on and off for you guys. I'm okay with that, cause I want them to be used this season, if I don't want them to sit up for a year not being used, but yes, they are working.
So they were never working?
No, they were not working.
I drove up there on Saturday when they were playing this Saturday or Sunday and talked. And I was looking and they weren't working. I called Spencer and he said no. I called James Heckathorn and he said the scoreboards are working, but they decided not to use them over the weekend because they needed to train their people. So they decided not to run the scoreboards.
And that was this last weekend. So
Last
the first weekend that you called me, they were not tested yet.
Right.
They've been tested now, so they do work, it's just. By the time I got them working, I didn't have time to connect with Cammy Rebels, get them trained on how to use them. But I don't know when your guys' next tournament is, but
We're officially, our tournament stuff's done.
Okay.
I think they're still playing some games there. But, yeah, so it's not a huge deal for us, kind of done, well, other than the daily basis, but if they're working, I'm sure they'll figure out how to
Yeah.
get the controller and all that, so. So it wasn't the battery on the controller, that
It was-
was originally what they thought, was it, they got the wrong batteries.
So it was, at first, we were trying to find where the keys were to the breakers to get in there. Open the panel, breakers were off, we're like, that's the problem, so we turned them on. And then we still weren't getting power, so then it was diving in and there's no wires anywhere, so that was where the problem was.
There it is, it's a bishop wire.
Yeah, we had to run wire all the way, they put the conduit in, but no wires, so.
Okay, we had a conversation with the folks from American Ram Company contacted me and I contacted Ryan and we had a phone conversation with the representative from American Ram Company in regards to Bell Park Skate Park. They wanted to know if we were still interested. Yeah, we're still interested, and how do we go about maybe reaching out and filing for a grant money? Do you wanna mention anything about that there?
No, we just wanted to meet with Maddie from that company because that state recreational grant, I think we're still, I know Barry especially is still interested in going out for it, so we're trying to set ourselves up for next year, we could apply for it, which, cause it's May, I think that it's due.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff that's needs to be ironed out to apply for that, because there's a lot of matching, and you have to know how many staff hours and how many equipment hours and all that, so our idea was to meet with Maddie to get some like comps, so that we can kind of estimate when the time comes, all those hours and budget and all that, so that when the grant cycle comes back around, we'll have a lot of fine-grained information to apply for that grant.
Has she provided anything to you, or?
No, because I told her that I was gonna look at the grant program and to kind of give her some of the criteria,
Okay,
and then she and I were gonna coordinate.
sounds great. I tried. Anybody else have anything? So I'm gonna I'll move into new business, and the new business is the election of officers. And before we go there, we had 4 people, sorry. We had 4 people that, their, membership, I guess, on the Parks Board is up, and that's myself, Andrew Hale, Kathy, and Ryan Oliver. And they sent me an email if you wanted to continue, just to send them an email to say, I still wanna stay on the board. I did that. Did you do
I
that?
sent an application and they came back and they just told me I just needed to say yes.
Okay.
Back on it.
Kathy, have you done?
I had a conversation via email with Teresa, I think it was,
Right.
last month.
Uh,
So she said you just need to let me know, so I let her know, so I thought, told her what I need to do,
I think
So you guys are saying all yeses,
yeah.
Yes. And
okay, except for Andrew, he doesn't.
Andrew Hale is not, he wants off, and I talked to Teresa originally. Weeks ago, and there's an opening, obviously for the board, and the board, that opening closes on June 20th. And as of right now, I know of 1 application that we've received. I sent her an email to see if there were any more. Received yet, so we've got until Friday to maybe get some other applications if there are. And then at that time, when we get the applications, they come in, then Jim and myself and Ryan will meet with the applicants, and then we'll choose one if we have more than one. So that's it. I'm moving forward. Other than that, we have an opening. Terry Jones is not here. Okay, she does not want to be secretary anymore. So we are in need of a secretary. If anybody so wishes to raise their hand,
You guys, I just made it to the finish line last time, aren't you? Haven't I undermined your confidence
We'll give
enough?
you one more chance.
Boy, this goes up.
Oh.
We have a lot of confidence and you did a great job and we would love to have you on. I know you were at the beach. That's the excuse.
Well, I know, but I don't like the excuses, so, but yes, I will do it.
All in favor of Kara moving forward as secretary? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Kara.
Yeah.
you. And now there's the chairman position. So anybody has anybody they would like to put up for chairman, please feel free to do it. So.
I'm just already writing it in the minutes, Barry continues as president. That's too bad,
What's that? There's protesters, no king.
it's already in the minutes, so. What are you gonna
Yes,
do?
I was all in favor. I would say
Aye.
All right, so that's done. So we have our officers. City staff update, Brian, do you have anything that you would like to?
Yes, Emily Sassy, who's our admin person on our team, she's the one that tends to take event and facility reservations.
Yeah.
She said there's a lot of ambiguity in how to take reservations for parks. You know, which activities need a reservation, which activities need liability insurance. And so she's gonna start exploring how to create more clarity with all that. So her plan is to meet with Public Works and probably our attorney, but then she was wondering if she could be put on a future agenda so that she could give a temperature for what the advisory board thinks about that stuff.
Sure.
What can you reserve now for the city?
I know the gazebo at Wake Park. And the all of Wake Park.
That's it. It's listed as, I don't think anyone's actually reserved the entire park. Usually it's either the gazebo or like half the park, kind of the green space area, but.
And that was one of the things that she brought up, you know, some people just go do their thing at the park. And then you have other people that pay and then go to the trouble of providing liability insurance. And so there's a little bit of like a dual system for people who do their legwork and then, you know, so she wants to make it fair. So.
Okay, I mean, as far as I know, that's the only place that they've ever reserved was the gazebo at Way Park. Other than that, there's been.
There was a time maybe covered areas in Mayport, but not anymore.
Well, Bridging Cultures, don't they use like locust cards and stuff? And so do they reserve it? Do they just go? I know they use Wake Park sometimes too. I don't know about Maple. But
There was a time the pole was the one that took the reservations.
Go back to that. Would this include like Maple Street, the fields and all that stuff too?
That's what, I guess Emily's.
It'll have to be a discussion, right?
We've had, I mean, there have been people, I think maybe Jimmy, the Brett, somebody, I mean, an adult softball league wanted to
right,
reserve the Maple Street fields and, or they wanted to book them, you know. If we take money, they have to have insurance, right? There has to be, they have to be insured. So. Yeah, we haven't entered into that realm yet, because there's a number of things. A number of areas, I guess we could look at for bringing in funds.
So the city doesn't get any money when there's a baseball tournament at Maple Park now?
Never did.
Never have. How about empty? Do they have to pay to use that?
if, we have to pay the school district
That's what I mean, yeah.
hourly rate, hourly rate. It keeps going up.
So it's not reserved, I mean, we could go up there and have our own game and then they couldn't have their tournament? I mean, how does
No,
that
I mean,
work?
because I think. And I'm looking to say this as I think it's kind of a handshake deal that baseball, softball, like at Maple Street, at Maple Street or the school district.
I'm thinking Maple Street.
Maple Street.
Yeah.
So I think basically they have turned it over to Canby Kids. They have first priority. And then if you wanted to make sure you could have a softball game there, then you'd have to communicate with the city or Canby Kids saying, is this day free? And if it's not, you couldn't go to the city and like, here's $50, I want it for Tuesday night. Basically, Canby Kids has it booked out every night of the week. But if there was a night free, then you'd have to communicate, but you couldn't supersede. Canby Road, Canby Baseball.
Has there ever been a talk about the city getting some funds from these organizations using it? I know. The swim team, Canby Gators have to pay to use the.
Well, so the softball has put in, because again, up until this year, it's been softball for the last 25 or 30 years. They have put in like all the netting and all of it, so they put in facility stuff.
Okay.
For safety and whatnot, so they've paid for that, but not for like an hourly usage. But they put money in, to the facility to.
I mean, back in the day, we used to play men's softball there. I was in the league there. Did we pay anything for that? No.
No. Cause it was basically the city at that point would mow. But all the, like the groundskeeping was all done by Canby Kids.
Yeah.
So all the fees, so those teams pay a fee and then they pay like the grounds guy and what have you, but there was nothing to the city saying, we wanna rent this for.
All the tournaments that we put on in the teams that are coming in pay some kind of a entry fee. Does all that money go to Canby Rebels, Canby Baseball? Does the city get any of that revenue at all?
No, well, there's not a ton of revenue to be had, to be quite honest with you, after you pay for. Well, I mean, at least for me, I can't speak for softball, for us. You pay for umpires who are now, like, they're like $85 a game, and there's usually, so after umpire, basically tournaments for us are break even deals.
Really? What's it cost for a team to enter a tournament?
Like $400, somewhere in there, and there's 8 teams. Once you pay, I mean, I don't know how many. You go through the bracket, you know, and the umpires, baseball and everything, and then hourly for us at the school district. Basically, we're doing them just to provide a tournament here in town, so you know, it's an experience, but it's not a money maker. In fact, sometimes they're money losers for us, but they're good. But you won't have them because they're, you know, they're fun and.
Well, it's good for the local business.
Yes, and that's who really, in fact, that's who really benefits from this whole thing is restaurants and everybody else. They're the ones that will make money. We're just sucker, I mean, in town.
Well, and you guys, I know softball doesn't like extra restrooms during.
Yeah, so we
there's-
did
You're
that.
paying for that as
So
well.
we, yeah, so in Maple Street, because the bathroom situation's so bad, is we have to pay extra for outhouses now. To do that.
Hold us to.
So, yeah, so so it adds up, yeah, so it's not a cheap endeavor. To put one of those things on. So yeah, there's not a pot of gold at the end of the tournament, you'd be like, yeah, here's a couple nickels.
Yeah. All right, do you have anything else?
No, that's it.
Gabbard, Andrew's not here, so.
Oh, I
Yeah,
have one
well-
more thing on the Maple Street. There was a rescue you guys may not be aware of at Maple Street Park. Really, I received a report of a swarm that was on a chain link fence, a bee swarm. Because apparently they do this, they get large and then they go off and the queen takes them off and then they get a new queen and anyway, so there's this giant basketball sized swarm on, and I have pictures of it at Maple Street. And somebody called me and said, what do we do? And I got on it and found this company called Bee Swarmed. It's a community based group and they're all beekeepers. And they volunteer, you call on, and I mean, it probably was within 2 minutes. This woman reached back out to me and said, where is it? Do you have a picture? I'll go get it right now. And so she went out, she evaluated it, and then she came back and got the whole thing the next day.
Was it during the tournament?
No. These are important,
I know.
these.
That in the notes, that in the notes.
It was a really cool thing, everyone knew that was out there.
Is that during the tournament?
No,
Actually, we should probably thank all the sports folks, so they.
it's called beswarmed.org.
And where was she from? Like you said, it was local.
Yeah, she was on, she
Why did
said,
they call you, Carol?
well,
Friends of Candy Park. Oh.
yeah, well, maybe, yeah, I mean,
Beswarmed.
cause I'm in the know.
You really are.
I'm a mover and shaker.
Brian Carroll put that in the minutes.
Yeah.
The drip face bar or the deal?
Yeah,
Taking away all the pats on the back, now you're.
It was really cool though, and I was so blessed to be part of it, you know, it was cool. So, anyway, apparently lots of swarms die that don't get help, so this one lives on. Yay.
Especially the ones over at Ryan's house.
I know.
Yeah, chance.
Well, Carmen will get you on that,
Gas and a lighter.
yeah,
I would have run away from him swimming. But
Jim, do you have anything you want to mention?
Sure.
Perfect, good.
Not much happened in the city, so.
yeah, nothing, slow.
That's right.
Really slow, yeah. So, Dawn in planning are doing a great job in regards to the comprehensive plan. That's a ton of work that those guys are. You know, the planning department's trying to get through there, so, and that includes some and all of everything, and especially the, new boundaries, for the city and stuff like that, so. Just about every week, we have a work session or something on the agenda with regards to the comprehensive plan. Walnut Street starting, Walnut Street. Phase 1, sir.
We have the pre-con tomorrow morning, so it'll probably be the week after.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so that's phase 1, that's the boring and undermining. So that's the start of the Walnut Street extension. Nice. You know, 10th Street is well on its way. That's, yeah, so if you can't get the Maple Street Park.
navigated that today. I fell into some. I was here, country roads.
So I was up on 10th Street this morning going to work and there was a coyote going through the construction area. So, sweet. Right, and people.
That from the Renaissance Fair?
Yeah.
Eat some turkey legs.
It was leftover.
So if you haven't been, had the fortunate opportunity to try to get into Canby, nice bridge. Good luck. You know, I highly recommend that you go past the Aurora, if you're coming from I-5, go past the Aurora Airport, turn left. And stay with the lights. Going into Aurora and then come back down. Barlow, no, do not come down Barlow, it's a mess.
And I will give an update on that as well. I don't know the dates yet. This is a streets hat instead of a parks hat. The county also decided that they are going to be paving Art and Airport.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Art and Airport Way.
Art Road and
When?
Airport. I don't have the dates.
During the time that the bridge was closed.
Yes, it is this summer.
Oregon City or bust is what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I think we get all there.
Oh, the ferry did extend its hours from the 21st of June until I think September of 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. So there is that route option.
Yeah,
What about South Ivy? That kind of fishing up?
South Ivy.
Do you want to?
Anything
I-
extra?
Oh,
Cause I was trying to come through there and it was blocked again, and it was just like.
So they're finishing up the, I believe this week and next week, finishing up most of the sidewalks on the west side of Ivy, and then they'll be transitioning over onto the east side. Right now, with trying to maintain traffic southbound off of 99. They had to close northbound traffic and divert everybody around. Once they get done with everything from Ace Glass up to kind of I can't even think of Ellie's business's name.
Oh.
Ellie Mae's
Yeah,
business
yeah.
right there. Once they get that sidewalk done, the sidewalk on the other side of the street is not being replaced. So traffic should be able to continue to flow. So they shouldn't do the hard closures like what they've been doing. So that should be in the next week or two.
Awesome. Thanks again for getting that sign moved. I noticed that it was moved the other day. Tomorrow night, we will have an urban renewal meeting to approve, well, have the budget, urban renewal budget put in front of us. And then we have a fall budget city council meeting, for those that don't know, that Eileen Stein, was asked to, was terminated. And George Stroh was put in there as the acting city manager until we get the interim city manager, which Chief Stroh, who was very reluctant because he's down one captain over at the police department. So he said he would do it for a week, more than a week. Because he's got so much going on. So we move forward, interviewed 3 candidates for the interim job last night. And we made a recommendation, and they have presented that contract through October. And during the time frame that we're gonna be doing a search for a new city administrator. So anyway, that's where we're at. A lot of very, very late nights. 11:30, 12 o'clock, things, so. But I appreciate Chief Stroh stepping up and doing the temporary one for a week or so. That's where we're at.
All right, thanks, Jim. And I wanna thank Jim also. We put in, I had my wife, and then a records request would be to the city to find out where our parks maintenance fees going. And I got a response back from the city, and I'm not about to pay for it, so. In order to get the records, there's some money that has to exchange hands, and I'm not paying for that, cause we've been asking for it for a long time. We did get an answer, and then Jim is pushing forward on that. He said, as a counselor, I should be able to get can I request that information? And money doesn't have to, we don't have to. And so Jim's working on it, so I appreciate Jim
Be patient.
carrying the torch, and I'll be patient, but we also need to.
Yep.
We also need to do something different about our parks maintenance fee. Whether, it shouldn't fall into the general fund, and if it does, it should be earmarked for parks maintenance. Certain line item, and then have somebody code it that way, maybe here in Public Works or whatever, so all those records get applied to the parks maintenance fee. So that we could have a report, like on a monthly basis, this is how much we had, this is where it went, this is what you used it for. So maybe we can do something, we might have to revisit the ordinance that was originally set forth. We might have to tweak it, I don't know, but I'm gonna, Jim said that I'm gonna have him, but
So the council, Barry, that's what it.
Would have to approve it.
Taking to the council is the council, that's the policy. How that needs to be charged or taken out or spent. And we've yet to set policy on that. So. Anyway, we're going to.
Would it help, like, once these numbers come, we get more numbers in front of us to kind of petition the council to do that? Like, for us to ask that as well, like, we could do it as a group, but also individually,
Oh, well,
would that help?
oh, yeah, yeah, when we get to that point, I'll be in communication with Barry. But the main thing is the council has to set policy on that, it can't be done by staff, apparently it's been done by staff. To determine how it's being charged. So.
So. There. And I got a recommendation or an application here for. The tree and bench program from David Klinke, who is
Yeah.
the. From the garden club.
Yeah.
So they would like to. Place a tree in Maple Park. And. Well, they did one in Maple Park, I guess turned one in last year, they'd like to do the same at Auburn Farms Park, and he did fill out. An application, so we have it here,
Perfect.
and I'm gonna give it to Spencer.
Excellent.
Okay. So that's it for our meeting, can I get a recommendation to adjourn our meeting?
Oh,
Good.
okay.
Jim Sidney, second. Kathy Ray. A motion to adjourn, say aye. Aye. Okay, we'll see everybody's July 15th. At 6:30 this time.
I'm sorry,
So,
you want it on or off?
a quick question.
No, it's.